Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, A Thorn in My Side. The man who rules the world takes on an agent from the CIA, from the Black Boule, in this all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get your copy of John Haynes' A Thorn in My Side in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. Okay, my last experience with a Loose Collector figure, La Muerta, was not that great. And it wasn't that great because that figure, basically, Loose Collector overthought the engineering of the articulation as related to her belt and made it where her torso would separate, and that made me hesitant to go out here and buy any more Loose Collector figures. However, when it came down to the Rocketeer is one of my favorite comic book characters, and when I heard that the Rocketeer was being reissued by Loose Collector, I had to put in a pre-order at Big Bad Toy Store. Now, the Rocketeer is a character that was created by the late Dave Stevens in the 1980s during the independent comic craze, and it's a character that pays homage to the old serials of the 1930s and 1940s. And the Rocketeer gained a really good cult following to the point where Disney wound up picking up the rights to make a film version of the Rocketeer in, I think, 1990 or 1991. And sadly, while that film underperformed at the box office, it was a great film. And over the years, it's gained a big cult following. And I have really been a big fan of not only the Rocketeer, but creator Dave Stevens. Now, Dave Stevens was a really great guy who, as he was creating his comic, The Rocketeer, was inspired by Betty Page to create the girlfriend Betty. And as he was inspired by Betty Page, he went out here and looked to help out Betty Page, who was elderly and struggling, and went out here, found out where she lived, went out here, reached out to Betty Page, and also worked behind the scenes with Hugh Hefner to get her the rights to her images and be able to help her to get a revenue stream to take care of herself in her older age until she wound up passing away in 2008. And that just shows the kindness of Dave Stevens as a man and his whole overall legacy, not only as a comic creator, but just also as a great guy. And when it comes to the Rocketeer, he's a character that I really love, and I had to get a figure of him for my collection. Now, the original Rocketeer figure came out in a 2-pack with his girlfriend, Betty, and at the time, I had basically already bought the Dynamite 3, so I didn't have much money left over to buy that set because it was really expensive at $149, but I was happy to be able to get a Betty figure on eBay for a good price, and I finally was able to see that this Rocketeer figure was coming up. So I finally went out here and put in, again, my pre-order to get this Rocketeer figure. And I really, when I'm looking at it in this box, I'm really happy with the overall figure. And I'm happy with the overall figure because this Rocketeer figure is a really good 6-inch scale one. And it's also one that has a great sculpt because Loose Collector does do great sculpts and great painting. So the overall figure is much nicer than previous Rocketeer figures. Now, I almost went out here and bought one from, I think, Diamond Select, but I heard that that figure had issues with breakage as related to quality control. But I'm glad that I was able to get this Rocketeer figure and have it as part of my collection. Now, when it comes to Loose Collector, this figure is a part of his Iconic Heroes series, which is all about showing us iconic indie characters like the Rocketeer, Reuben Flagg, also known as American Flagg, which is coming up later on, and other characters like Captain Canuck. And I'm really glad to see that he is focusing on many of the great indie characters, and I'm hoping that eventually he will work something out with guys like Tim Seeley so that we can get Cassie Hack, or work out something with Everett Hart so that we can get a Razor figure and a Grips figure to go with many of the other great indie characters that have been a part of indie comics. And this figure, again, when I'm looking at it in this box, again, fantastic figure all around. The box is very nice, nice window box with, it shows off the character, the Rocketeer, with his helmet on, shows off his accessories such as his Luger, and also shows off Butch the dog and the hands and the head. So we've got all the accessories basically shown to us in the front of the packaging, so you already know what you're getting. And on the side, we got a great picture of the Rocketeer. And on the back, we have the Rocketeer in action. And I just can't wait to open up this figure and share him with you. Now, out of the box, the Rocketeer has two sets of hands, a rocket pack and a gun, and an unmaxed head, plus Butch the dog. So we get a look at all the accessories here, and everything is nicely laid out in these trays that basically you can put back on. That's one of the things I like about Loose Collector packaging, is you can reseal the packaging to basically keep your figure in good condition. And everything here just looks really nice, and you know what you're getting. It comes down to articulation. Loose Collector's Rocketeer has a great set of articulation that will flow aesthetically with all of your other figures in 1/12 scale, such as Marvel Legends, DC Universe Classics, G.I. Joe Classified, WWE, and other figures, and that articulation really works well on this figure. Now, I've got the character holding his Luger gun that he comes with, and it pegs in nicely as related to the articulation. And this articulation setup is really nice. Rocketeer has a nice ball-jointed neck that can look up and down very nicely and go side to side. He also has ball-jointed shoulders that, again, flow very nicely as related to the arms. Has bicep swivel, double elbows as related to things, wrist hinge and wrist swivel on both hands. I mean, up and down for the gun hands, and regular for the side to side. He has a nice torso joint that I wish could be a little better. And I wish he did have the forward shoulders like G.I. Joe Classified to get him some really cool flying poses, but I'm happy with the overall shoulders. And he has a nice waist articulation that moves very nicely. And he also has the ball-jointed hips as related to hips, and thigh swivel, has double knees, has calf swivels, and has ankle pivots. So he has all the articulation you'll need for your figure to be in action with other 1/12 scale figures like Marvel Legends, G.I. Joe Classified, and many of the other lines, and will fit much better into those lines, and I'll show that as related to scale. Now, when it comes to scale, the Rocketeer scales very well with most 1/12 figures. Now, Rocketeer is standing right next to Marvel Legends Walmart exclusive Captain America, and he scales very nicely if you want to do a Golden Age crossover with your figures. I mean, when it comes to this Captain America and Rocketeer, they look absolutely fantastic together and look like they would fit in a World War II Golden Age superhero display. Now, if you want to go out here and talk about time travel or stories that would feature the Rocketeer, you could also do that, because he scales very well with Spider-Man and looks very nice with Spider-Man as related to scale. So Rocketeer scales very well with Spider-Man and Marvel Legends, and also scales well with older action figure lines like DC Direct's Superman. I mean, he scales very nicely with DC Direct's Superman, and also scales well with DC Universe Classics Wonder Woman. I mean, all of these figures basically, again, look like they all would fit well together in a display very nicely, because they're all nicely in scale with each other as related to proportions. So you got some great scale as related to this figure, which is a lot nicer than I've seen with other figures. And he also scales very well with other figures like G.I. Joe Classified Flint. Now, G.I. Joe Classified Flint, again, scales very nicely. If this camera would focus, we could see how he scales with G.I. Joe Classified Flint. And again, really good height as related to this figure, who's wearing higher boots and a helmet. So we got good size and, again, good proportions for this figure. And he also scales very well. We'll leave Flint in the picture for now, because I want to take another action figure from the Valaverse line in Gemini. And Bobby Vala, could you please give us a neutral face for Gemini? Because I want to buy another Gemini and have both expressions. But Gemini scales very nicely with Loose Collector's Rocketeer. So this figure flows very nicely with other lines and flows nicely with those lines to basically make it compatible with those lines. I mean, on the larger scale, you have Frazetta Girls Vampirella, which, again, also scales very nicely to my surprise. I mean, this figure, again, Frazetta Girls Vampirella, scales very nicely with the Rocketeer as a more of a supernatural character. And yeah, she's wearing heels, similar to Cliff's girlfriend, Betty, who's also wearing heels. So we're getting about a similar height as related to scale. So scaling very nicely as related to figures. Now, the only thing that I found that might be possibly sad is that when it comes down to other Loose Collector figures in the Dynamite line, figures like Red Sonja, she's a little on the tall side, and again, a little on the tall side as related to the 6-inch scale. But you could possibly fudge in a scene and say that Cliff is a little shorter and Sonja is a little taller. That's what you could do in this situation as related to this Rocketeer figure. But this Rocketeer figure is a figure that basically could work with all of your various 1/12 lines with no problem. Work with them no problem at all. And you could go out here and again have this Rocketeer figure with all of your different figures, with Golden Age adventures with Superman and Captain America and Wonder Woman, or more Silver Age adventures with Spider-Man, or have him in a time travel story helping out the Joes against Cobra. You have so many story options because this figure, again, is a very nice figure at a very nice scale and is a great figure that will be a good part of a collection if you're a fan of independent comic characters like I am. Now, Loose Collector's reissue of the Rocketeer is a little pricey. However, it is a lot cheaper than trying to go out and try to find the original Rocketeer box set on eBay. Now, the original Rocketeer box set cost about $200 to $250 if you go on eBay right now, and that set basically is sold out and is going up in value as we speak. And the only way you can get this Rocketeer right now is if you buy this single figure from places like Big Bad Toy Store. And the price at $69.99 to about $75 isn't too bad when you consider this is a premium figure of a independent character, one we may not ever see again, and considering that the quality of this figure is much better than previous releases, like I believe the Diamond Select one, which is basically about 7 inches, and basically the other one that was made by another company that winds up breaking all the time. At least with this one, you'll get higher quality control and better quality all around of a legendary and iconic comic book character and movie character that a lot of people like. So again, you may pay a lot on the front end, but you do get a character you love as related to your collection, and one that will definitely fit into your 1/12 scale as related to characters, whether they be comic fans who love the Rocketeer or movie fans who love the movie. This Rocketeer is one that you could basically put into your collection and really enjoy and not worry about it basically being one that you have to worry about it possibly breaking like the previous one, or be one that's really expensive. This one is a good decent price for a collectible when you consider it is one of those characters that we don't see all the time. One of those characters we don't see all the time as related to action figures, and this is a really solid version of the comic book version of the Rocketeer, and I'm really glad to have him as a part of my collection. Now, I can recommend you go out here and pick up Loose Collector's Rocketeer. This is a great figure for your collection. He will, again, work well with all of your favorite characters if you want to create displays and dioramas with those characters. I mean, he will work great with your Captain America. We'll move Butch over here. He'll work great with your Superman, and as related to that old DC Direct line, and he'll work great with Wonder Woman, again, overall all around, and he'll work great with Spider-Man. So he really will, again, work well with all of your collectibles, and will even work with many of your other characters, like, again, G.I. Joe Classified. Again, this figure, again, works very nicely and will be a great addition to your collection, a great addition to your overall collection of 1/12 figures, and is one that, again, I repeat, you will and I can highly recommend and pick up for your collection. Now, you can get your copy of The Rocketeer at BigBadToyStore.com or other online booksellers, and you can also head over to Amazon to check out some of my books on the SJS Direct imprint, which feature action-packed fantasy in the SJS Direct universe, and books like the ISIS series, the Steam series, the John Haynes series, and books like the Spinsterella trilogy. And you can check out my first full comic, John Haynes at Death's Door, on Lulu.com. You can get that comic for the same price as a 2022 Kickstarter. And you can also check out my first digital comic, A Steam No Good Deed, on Amazon.com for just 99 cents. And you can check out all of my work, again, on Amazon once more, and other online booksellers like Draft to Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you want to see me be able to buy more action figures for action figure reviews like this, you can drop a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App, so I can continue buying the action figures and doing action figure reviews for great action figures like the Rocketeer, and show you why those figures would be a great part of your collection. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Coming to paperback and e-readers, the Steam Season of the Witch Girl. The aspiring angel takes on a wicked teenage witch in this action-packed, all-new Steam series adventure. Pre-order your copy of the Steam Season of the Witch Girl at Amazon.com and other online booksellers. Now available in paperback and e-readers, Isis, Dark Incubus. The goddess next door gets enthralled in a romantic entanglement with an evil incubus in this all-new Isis series adventure. Get your copy of Isis, Dark Incubus in paperback and e-readers today. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.